The Ford Expedition is 25 years old. So wait, what does that make it? Is that a bronze anniversary? I think 50 is a silver. So anyway, happy 25th Ford Expedition. Well, that doesn't sound set up at all. Thing is, Ford Expedition was introduced back in 1997 as a new version or a follow-up to the Ford Bronco, the original full-size Ford Bronco. And suffice it to say that it has been a very, very big hit for Ford. In fact, these full-size SUVs, from GM, Stellantis, Jeep, Dodge, and all that, and for Ford and GM, there are only three of them, I can't get them straight, are extremely important for these brands for two reasons very specifically. I mean, one of them is that they serve as giant billboards wherever it is they go. And the second thing, and probably even more important, is that they generate massive profits. Huge sums of money are made by automakers by selling these SUVs, and they ain't cheap. That money does serve a number of purposes. Obviously, run the business because you're in business to make money, and they serve to develop future products, specifically at this point in time for EVs. The thing with the Expedition is that I've always felt like it was playing catch up with the GM trucks, but that's not entirely accurate. But at the same time, there's a little bit more continuity. In fact, I think Suburban is one of the oldest nameplates still running in North America and possibly all of automotive history. I might be a little bit off on that, but probably not that far. And maybe just based on that, the Expedition never it's had a few issues in its life, not that the GM trucks or the Jeeps or the Stellantis trucks have not, but look, the thing is, the Expedition was introduced back in 1997, has done well for Ford. This is a 2022 Ford Expedition, which is now the facelifted version of the 4th generation Expedition that was introduced for 2018. Whew, I got this. And more specifically, this exact Ford Expedition is, as you can see, that little triangular mountain kind of shape right here. Yeah, that one. This is a Timberline. This is probably the version that Ford should have introduced back in 2018 to boost somewhat the sales, or at least appreciation for this truck. In a different parallel universe, they would have introduced this with the 3rd generation way back in 2007. But anyways, this is the off-road version. That's what I'm trying to say. And everything off-road has been, or adventure or overlanding, whatever, has been extremely hot over the last couple of years. So Ford has played catch up as far as that's concerned, and now they've delivered this. So in the following video, what we're going to do is we're going to point out what was refreshed for the 2022 model year, specifically, well, look, it's really simple: front, rear, and the interior, which is inspired largely by North America's, I was going to say America's, but North America's favorite vehicle, the Ford F-150. And then we'll take it for, no, I'm exaggerating, a little bit of a road test, because the Timberline has, well, something that is kind of familiar. Oh, I'll just say it. It's got the high output 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6, so it actually hauls really. Anyway, so as you know, if you've watched one or two of my videos, thank you ever so graciously for taking the time and for perhaps watching the remainder of this video, because as you know, we're going to do a walk around and then take it for a drive. Here we go. All right, so let's just jump right into styling, and the facelift, what I just mentioned. It's subtle but noticeable at the same time. The rear end is slightly updated, different bumpers, revised tail lights, few angles here and there. Wheels are different for most trims, if not all. The headlight, the front end is probably what's most different and most visible. The changes here, as you can see. The hood, I think, has been revised as well. There's a number of changes. Basically, to put it nicely, the Expedition is a handsome SUV. It's not the best looking one. I think the GMs look fabulous, and the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer also. So this wouldn't be my first choice for aesthetics, and that actually applies to the Timberline, which is unusual because usually when you go off-roading, things get a little bit more interesting visually. if not as far as performance is concerned. Now, I said these things are very expensive, so here goes as far as pricing is concerned. In the US, the base XL STX, I got this, two-wheel drive is $53,375. In Canada, the equivalent but not quite base XLT is $69,840. I mean, other than a few features and accessories and the fact that our XLT comes with a 4x4 all-wheel drive as standard, that's a big gap in money, and it doesn't get any better going forward. The top Platinum is $79,560 in the US, $95,725 in Canada. As I mentioned, this is a Timberline, which is priced from $84,840 in Canada. Now the base features in Canada for the XLT trim, I mean, it's 18-inch wheels, tri-zone, HVAC, 12-inch screen, seating for 8, power folding third row, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, blah, blah, blah. It's well set up. Now when you move up to the Timberline, well, you get all that plus, plus, plus. The important bits are these unique 18-inch wheels, which admittedly are quite good looking. These 32-inch Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires, which maybe in the sun, I don't know if it's just me, but it's kind of a missed opportunity. If you're gonna go Timberline, in fact, I have a theory, but if you're gonna go Timberline off-road adventure, 32s on such a big truck, not quite big enough. Perhaps, although they haven't shown any indication of this being the case, there is a Tremor version, which could include 33s or, you know, in a psycho sideways world, 35s, but they seem a little small for the application, as I like to say. You also get a front skid plate, you get all kinds of tangerine highlines, I'll show that to you on the inside. My tester has a few options, including the Timberline High Package, which includes lots of things for $10,000, such as the 15.5-inch touchscreen, a 12.4-inch digital instrument display, a leather B&O audio system, power second row. As it sits right there in front of you, you are looking at just shy of $96,000. And obviously 3.5 liter EcoBoost twin turbo V6 is standard in this truck, but there are 1, 2, 3 different outputs, I believe. And as I mentioned, this one has the high output. Okay, what else are we gonna do? I guess we'll do the tour. Yeah, that seems about right. Oh, one of the cool things. I mean, in the real world, you know, like a lift up glass like that is about as useless as things get, but it's a cool feature. I like it. The power hatch as expected. Alrighty then, so power folding third row, which is very cool, I have to admit. Now, if you go behind the second row right here, to give you an idea, there's a maximum of 1,800 liters of boot space. That is massive. And then when you get behind the third row, that's cut down to less than a third at about 546, 547 liters of trunk space. Now, when it comes to underfloor storage, shove that over there. There's this divider, which is kind of cool, but there isn't really any room in there. The trick here is that it kind of splits and rolls and does all kinds of funny things. Here are your controls for the power second row and the power third row. Power hatch. Okay, which way do I want to go in? I'm going to go in on the passenger side. Okay, so, I mean, this is not the Max. In fact, there is no Max available for the Timberline, but there is for the Platinum and one other trim out of the 4. I don't think the XLT is available as a Max. But even so, this is not a Max. I mean, and oh yeah, you see that? It's green, it's beautiful. Loads of room for the kids, and I'm gonna crawl into the, oh, there's my daughter's unicorn hat. That's where it went. So shown in the third row. It's actually usable, to be honest, because as you can see, I can actually bend my leg, so I'm comfortable, and visibility is actually quite good thanks to this huge piece of glass there. You could slide 3 across, if you can imagine that side being up. Captain seats, great seats in the house. Okay, you know what? Let's just mess around. I love these handles. Some of the coolest handles inside a Ford truck. In fact, they should just put these in all their vehicles. Okay, all right. Okay, so I said leather. Oh yeah, there's my hoodie. Don't need that anymore. Oh, I'm a mess today. Unlike most Ford products, this is actually pretty good. And you can see kind of the casting lines, which is unfortunate for $100,000. But otherwise, you know what? It's actually not that bad. The materials are convincing. The way it comes, there's your orange highlights all over the thing. That's very reminiscent, orange, very reminiscent of the Tremor trim, must say. But it's good, looks functional. I mean, the bins are massive. Dora, love these handles. Okay, let's climb aboard, power seats, power lumbar, and start it up. Okay, so let's just get right to it because the other one is slow to load. And it's been a little bit frustrating. 12.4-inch display, it changes slightly. If you configure it left, right, and center or whatever. Here is your 15.5-inch display. So if you look at the entire dashboard, it looks quite a bit like the one found in the F-150. Yeah, extra storage right there, that's kind of cool. Speaking of storage, let's just get that out of the way. Here's your drive roulette, locking rear locking differential. Here's your 4x4 system. These are your drive modes too. Okay, so storage. Anyway, you've all seen that before. So the thing with this screen is, and I'm going to try and not work it through my phone, but it, you know, it kind of works. It does. It's a little bit slower to react than I would like it to be. For most cases, you know, and some of the gestures are kind of not really intuitive. I don't know. If you want max, but you want to go in the middle, obviously it's working fine, not because it's being tested. That's always the way. So Apple CarPlay, as I said, satellite radio. It's kind of neat because once you select, you know, one of these rolling menus, it pops up above. That's okay. But for the most part, I've discovered that this is your like main menu. This is your truck vehicle access menu thingamajigger, which is fine. CarPlay, radio navigation, you know. I can't believe it's working well. You know what? Call me a liar. What can I say? It's a cool looking screen. It's been slow. There aren't that many, you know, redundant hard buttons. In fact, stop, start, stop, hazards, and the other ones are fairly self-explanatory. I mean, it's a great truck to move into. You feel like you're on top of the world. Visibility is okay until you get over here when you're dealing with a massive spot, but that's not so unusual in these trucks. And I think I've already said far too much, so it's time to high output ourselves out of here. Among the numerous perks, if we can call them that, when you select or buy an overland, off-roading, whatever trim of a given SUV vehicle, whatever, is that it comes with a dedicated off-road suspension. And I was excited, I will admit, I'm like that. I get excited about cars, trucks, and all the above. That I was looking forward to testing this or experiencing this truck's off-road tuned dampers, and within moments of driving off with this 22 Expedition Timberline, I was disappointed, very disappointed. You see, because even in a TRD Pro or anything ZR2 or anything Rubicon, or well, Rubicon is a little more extreme, but in these dedicated trucks with their dedicated suspensions, the ride quality is usually better because of the extra dampening, the extra travel, but not so with the Timberline. Look, I'm doing 52 kilometers an hour, 53, and the road is okay. It's not perfectly silky smooth, but I'm feeling everything. And normally I wouldn't complain about that in a sports car, but not in an SUV like this. I'm truly disappointed. I mean, a Tremor, be it a Ranger or an F-150, rides nicer than this. What the heck? What happened there? They're trying to keep costs down? Is that why this has 32s instead of 33s or whatever? Anyways, ride is just, it's no fun. It's bouncy jouncy, but it's not refined. It's unfiltered. There's nothing really redeeming about this. Sure, you get, I think it's 10.6 inches of ground clearance total over the 9.8 standard with the Expedition, but I don't know, that's what I was looking forward to most of all with this SUV. Now the other one is a little bit different. Well, it's in this case the extra power, because in normal drive mode, this thing with its 510 pound-feet of torque as of 2250 RPM and 440 horsepower at 5,000 RPM makes for a very, very fast 5,700 pound full-size SUV. But it's not, again, there's a lack of refinement overall that you expect and you get in a Wagoneer, a Grand Wagoneer, even a Grand Cherokee L, that I hope to experience in a Sequoia, but that you definitely get in a Chevy Tahoe or Suburban or Yukon or Yukon XL. You don't get it with that in the powertrain. The difference between a naturally aspirated V8 and a twin turbocharged V6. Related to that is the 10-speed automatic transmission. It can be seamless if you're just petting the throttle pedal. But as soon as you kind of roll into the throttle, it's very harsh. The shifts are felt immediately. There's a little bit of a lag. There's some hesitation. There's a shift, and then there's a gap. It's no fun. I mean, this thing is fast, as I just said. In sport mode, it engages 4x4 auto right away, so you kind of feel like you can better put the power to use in some on-ramps and off-ramps. But even that's not entirely fun. Yes, it's a Timberline, so it's got the trail select, and it's got control track. It's got all your off-road driving modes, and to be frank, I didn't feel that I really wanted to take this thing off-roading because it has been in the past, and it's kind of not rolled away unscathed by previous testers, so I'm not going to take it there. But I mean, it's so big, it'll go where you want it to go, but you know, anything narrower than your average garage, and you're going to scrape something, scratch something else, and who knows what, dent another thing. Okay, what else? Brake pedal feel. It's very Ford, where it feels very artificial, but still responds eventually to, you know, brake pedal pressure, as you would expect. Steering is actually quite nice, can't complain. There's good weight to it. The knobby tires do kind of mess around with, you know, that sense of security and responsiveness from the front tires, but hey, that's part of the package. That's fine, that's okay. The EcoBoost 3.5 makes a cool noise for a V6. And when I said familiar, I mean, this is exact powertrain to within, you know, this much to the Ford Raptor. Not the Raptor R, of course, but the Raptor. So it's got that growly, grunty V6 turbo note, which is very cool, especially when you start it up when it's cold. I said 5,700 pounds, right? So Ford says that you might be able to average 13.9 liters per 100 kilometers, as I'm stuck in traffic right now, in combined driving. But the reality is, I mean, if you noticed it, I'm averaging about 14.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's because most of my driving, unusually, has been done on the highway. So if I factor in, you know, a lot more city driving, anything under 17 liters per 100 kilometers will be a gift from the heavens, because otherwise it's just going to be way over that. You can tow 6,000 pounds with this, should you please. Although fuel consumption will be terribly affected, as is usually the case with the EcoBoost V6. I mean, yes, it's affected in any other V8, the 5.3 for example, or 6.2. But this takes a slightly bigger hit. Speaking of 5.3 and 6.2, when I say that this thing is about $96,000, I specified, sorry, Taycan Sport Turismo. I built a 2022 Chevy Tahoe Z71 with the off-road package and a whole bunch of other off-road features. And even if I throw in the 6.2 liter V8, which has 20 horsepower short from this, but still down somewhat, 50 pound-feet of torque if I'm not mistaken. The point is that this thing, or not this thing, sorry, but the Chevy is something like $14,000 cheaper than this, $12,000 to $14,000. And it has an air suspension, it has Magnum dampers, and it's just more refined, better looking, and probably a little bit more reliable in the medium and long term. I don't know. I can't say I don't like the Expedition. It's a fine full-size truck. But when you consider that for $100,000, let's just take this one specifically, you can get a Wagoneer Series 3 with all the options and maybe even get a Grand Wagoneer. I think it's Series 2 for $105,000, give or take, and then you get the 6. This truck is kind of a half fail when it should have been an absolute winner. It needs more tires, it needs more refinement, it needs better dampers, it needs a whole bunch of things to justify the price. Power is good, but that's about it. So I guess you figured out by now that I would take Tahoe over an Expedition and or a Wagoneer. So yeah, that's that.